Former lowlife, but now people call me the king. Tearing it up with every lyric that I bring to the table. Because I'm willing and able. I'm in more homes than Comcast cable. I got the skill that'll rattle your brain. I'm a threat like Saddam Hussein. Everybody know my name. Joe Habib's a top soldier. Kid, they should have told you. You really need to pack a lunch. My words hit hard just like a Tyson punch. So give me a chance. I bet you I can make it dance. Show me your girl. I bet you I get in her pants. I'm breaking egos and money is what I'm stacking. Joe Habib on the mic. You know I'm down for action. Shout out to Make Beats Sir and the Beat Smith and the whole Rope-A-Dope radio crew. Yeah.
All right, you're here. So obviously you read the title. You know what we're going to talk about. We're going to do something today that you may call me hypocritical in doing what I'm going to do today. A lot of times I'm critical of people who use the whataboutism defense to make a point or to take a stance on a specific topic, right? Or issue. But in this case, I do believe that the whataboutism defense is valid and applicable here. And again, this is my opinion, just like 99.9% of the content on here, on this channel, and on YouTube in general is opinion, right? Even if we're talking about factual things or occurrences that have happened, not only in boxing, but just about in anything, we generally have an opinion on the facts, right? Facts are Conor Benn on a VADA test had an adverse finding, right? For Clomid, right? Or clomiphene, right? A drug that has been prescribed to people in HRT, hormone replacement clinics, right? People who are looking to increase testosterone. It has been prescribed to people in the fitness industry. People have taken it in the fitness industry. Athletes have taken it before. Bodybuilders have taken it before. It's listed as a fertility drug, but it has been used in the past to increase testosterone, right? And testosterone, when it's not only at optimum levels, but if it's above optimum levels, has shown to help with performance, strength, recovery. It makes a man a more vital man, so to speak, right? So there is some evidence to suggest and prove that Clomid, right, can be a performance enhancer, right? So the debate here is, okay, well, the VADA test came up with an adverse finding, but the UTCAT test did not. And you heard the interviews, you heard the arguments, you heard Eddie Hearn's statements, you heard Conor Benn's statements, you've heard Chris Eubank Jr.'s statements, right? Both fighters want the fight to go on. Chris Eubank Jr. is not concerned about the issue. Eddie Hearn, has kind of flip-flopped a little bit. He was saying that VADA is the gold standard, but now he's saying, well, VADA is irrelevant in this situation. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but he's kind of indicating that VADA is irrelevant here because the British Board of Control uses UCAD, and the UCAD tests were all clear, right? No adverse findings in those tests, right? So you have people saying that this fight shouldn't happen. This is a black eye for the sport of boxing. This is unsafe, if you care about the integrity of the sport, if you care about the safety of the fighters, then you shouldn't want this fight to go on. But again, I have an opinion that's in the minority, right? I have a very controversial opinion, right? And I'm going to say a lot of uncomfortable truths that people probably would agree with, right? Probably already know, but there are going to be a lot of virtue signalers on here, a lot of false outrage on here. There's going to be a lot of virtue signaling on here, right? And we've heard it, okay? We've heard it. Everyone's up in arms about this. Oh, you know, how bad this is and how much of a joke the sport of boxing is if this fight goes on, right? But again, like I said, I'm gonna use the whataboutism defense here, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna just explain to you, and this is my stance, and you don't have to agree with it. You can you can discredit it, you can devalue it, you can do whatever you want with it. But I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and I don't really care how you react to it. I really don't. You have a right to react to it the way you want to react to it. You have a right to your own opinion. I'm not going to discredit your opinion. And I just ask that you don't discredit mine or devalue mine. But everyone is so up in arms every time we see one of these situations with a fighter having an adverse finding on a test, right? And again, the rules are the rules. If you agree to follow the rules, if you agree to a contract, then you should follow the contract, right? And that's fine. I understand that. So if the fight does go on, uh, it is going to look kind of hypocritical, and it's going to make everyone involved. It's not going to make them look good. I understand the optics of the situation. I get all that, but my argument is and has always been: people talk about the safety of the sport, right? And I'm going to say an uncomfortable truth, and I think it's just basic reality, and people can view it any way they want to view it. But you're talking about two men punching each other in the head, in the body, where the main objective is to render the other man, their opponent, unconscious, right? So the goal of the sport is to hurt the other man, right? The goal of the sport is to try to render your opponent unconscious. You're trying to incapacitate another human being, right? Is that ever safe in any world? Where would that be deemed safe, right? Now you could put try to put a happy face on it and come up with all these rules and all these things, and you can say, oh, we're concerned about the safety of the sport. But let's look at some of these um things that have been done in the sport of boxing to try to make the sport more safe, right? Like, as if punching someone in the head is ever going to be a safe thing to do. Being punched in the head, being knocked unconscious, that ever going to be safe? Is that ever going to be something that's normal in life, right? Can you ever really fully mitigate damage once you're getting pounded in the head hundreds of times over the course of 36 minutes or however long the duration of the fight is? So when we say, oh, we're concerned about the safety of the fighters, again, punching someone in the head is never going to be safe, right? Cracking someone's ribs is never safe, right? You can say whatever you want. This sport will never be safe. It's not a safe sport. Just like race car driving is never going to be safe, right? Bungee cord jumping is never going to be safe. Skydiving is never going to be safe. These are high risk activities, right? And you could say whatever you want. So they cut the rounds from 15 in championship fights to 12. But what evidence do we have to suggest that taking 15 minutes off of a fight is going to mitigate risk for somebody. So you mean to tell me someone can't get hit in the head and suffer brain damage in the first round? It can only happen in rounds 13, 14, and 15? What difference does it make what round someone gets hit in, right? Has cutting the rounds from 15 to 12, is there any evidence to suggest that less fatalities in the sport have occurred since doing that? Less fatal injuries have occurred since doing that, right? And then this whole day before weigh-ins, everyone's, oh well, we don't want fighters to go into the ring dehydrated, and you know it's more safe. Let them have that 36-hour period to rehydrate. Okay, that's fine. But let's look at some of the negative effects from that rule, right? You got these guys who are walking around at 180, 170, right? Trying to get down to 147. And then you say, oh, you can weigh in the day before and you'll have 36 hours to rehydrate, right? You give them that false sense of security that they can get everything back in that 36 hours, all the electrolytes, all the nutrients that they're going to need, and they're going to be okay going into that ring the next day. Is that really safer? Having someone walking around, so you're incentivizing these ridiculous weight cuts. Whereas if you were to make guys weigh in the day of, guys would fight closer to their walk around weight. Whereas now you're giving them this fail safe false sense of security where they think they can get it all back in 36 hours. And not only that, some guys who don't balloon up in weight, who do walk around at close to their fighting weight, are fighting a guy who does not. So now that guy has to go into the ring against a guy the night of the fight who's going to be 15 to 20 pounds heavier than them. Is that a fair fight? Is that safe for two highly skilled guys to square off against each other? One guy having a 20-pound weight advantage? Is that really safe? Right? Joe, boxing is not safe, but there is no need to make it more unsafe by cheating. The weight thing went bad for Joey Gamage. Okay, we're gonna get into all that, and you have a right to your opinion. We're not, like I said, we're not here to attack, criticize, or discredit anyone. I'm giving you my opinion, and we're gonna tie this all in. I know it seems like I'm going off in a lot of different directions, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but we're gonna tie this all in, and we're gonna come uh, to why I have my opinion, and I'm gonna be very clear, concise, and I'm gonna be transparent. And I'm gonna explain why I believe what I believe. And then you have, so that's why I think the whole 12 round, the 15 to 12, it's ridiculous because again, so you cut it 15 rounds. Does that mean punches from rounds 1 through 12 are less dangerous? They hurt less. They're less fatal than they are from 13, 14, and 15. It's like again, I'm going to say something controversial. It's like the stupid mask rule. You had people going into a restaurant wearing a mask, but then when they sat down at the table, they took it off. So what difference does that make if you're taking it off and you're at the table? Like, what is the sense of wearing it in the first place if you're going to sit down and take it off? So again, is there any evidence to suggest that punches are less dangerous in rounds 1 through 12 than they are, or they would have been in rounds 13, 14, and 15? So by cutting the fights down to 12 as opposed to 15, realistically, is there any evidence to suggest that has made the sport safer? Has it made the sport safer by allowing fighters to weigh in the day before so they can balloon up, right? I argue that it made the sport more unsafe because it incentivized guys to make these ridiculous weight cuts, giving them, like I said, I repeat, that false sense of security that they can get it all back in 36 hours. Where I believe it's even more dangerous. I would rather have a guy weigh in the morning of the fight and weigh in at and walk around and weigh in at a weight class that he should be fighting at, not a weight class that he's killing himself to make weight, right? So to me, when they say they want to make the sport safer, I argue that those two rules were very insignificant. And in regards to the weight rule, the day before weigh-ins, I think it made the sport more unsafe, right? So that's just my opinion, right? Um, then I think back in the day when Sugar Ray Robinson was fighting, they used to fight with 6-ounce gloves, right? And now they I think they fight with 8-ounce gloves, and then from 154 and above they fight with 10-ounce gloves. Okay, do those 2 extra ounces really have an effect on the damage to someone getting hit in the head? Really? Is there any evidence to suggest that adding the bigger gloves from 154 to heavyweight has it made the sport safer? So once again, we have all these things that are put in place just to give the feeling that, okay, we're trying to make this sport safer, but there's no evidence to suggest that those things that have been done make the sport safer, right? So, Beeb, why are we talking about all this? Well, I'll explain to you why. But before I do that, I want to add one more thing in there: the mismatches. Week after week after week after week, we see guys going in there and they're 20 to 1, 30 to 1, sometimes 40 to 1 favorites, right? You got one guy who's up here in skill versus another guy down here in skill, right? It's like there's no way that this guy can compete with this guy up here, right? So when the skill gap is that great and these fights are allowed to be sanctioned, right? In my opinion, the guy who's down here, and evidence has shown this, is at much more significant risk of getting injured because he doesn't have the skill level to defend himself properly and compete compete at a equal level to the guy that's up here. So when you have these mismatches like that, there's no happy outcome to that fight. You usually see a guy that's down here, right? Versus the guy who's up here. This guy is battering the living shit out of this guy, right? So how safe is that when you allow somebody who is 10 levels above somebody else to fight, when you got a guy like Tyson Fury calling out a guy like Manuel Char, who has virtually no chance of winning the fight, and you go, oh, well, Beeb, there's upsets. Okay, but again, we're not dealing with the exceptions to the rule. We're dealing with probability versus possibility here, right? So you got these gross mismatches, right? Where the guy who is severely less skilled, severely overmatched, he's at a great risk of getting seriously hurt because he does not have the ability and the skills to properly compete against someone who's 10 levels above him. But no one complains about, I mean, of course we say we don't like the fight, but no one really comes out and says, oh, well, this is bad. That guy who's a 30 to 1 underdog, he's going to get his ass kicked. He may lose his life. No. And we never say, oh, well, this guy that's losing 30, 40 pounds trying to get down to a weight, oh, he could lose his life. He could get seriously hurt. We never complain about that, right? But we love to complain every time someone has an adverse finding on a PED test, right? We have evidence of people who engage in severe mismatches. The guy who's 10 levels below the other guy in skills, we have evidence to suggest that those guys get fatally injured and have died in the past. We have empirical data to prove all that, right? We have empirical data to prove that guys who've undergone severe weight cuts have put themselves at risk, have been severely injured, have dehydrated, right? have been hospitalized, right? We talk about guys losing so much weight and being so dehydrated that the cerebral spinal fluid in their brain is totally absent from their skull, and there's no cushion for the brain, right? We have evidence of all this stuff, right? But yet no one ever says, "Oh, well, this guy shouldn't be allowed to cut this much weight. They should force him to move up a weight class because he's putting himself at risk." No one says, "Oh, this guy's a 30-1 underdog. They shouldn't let this fight go on because he's at serious risk. He can't intelligently defend himself against this guy who's 10 levels, 15 levels, 20 levels above him." No one ever says, let's stop those things from happening. No one ever says, what about the safety of the fighter then? But every time, right, someone has an adverse finding on a test, right? Oh, well, what about the safety of the fighters? I will argue that the gross mismatches and these severe weight cuts are significantly more dangerous to a fighter's health than someone coming up with an adverse finding with trace amounts of a substance on a PED test. So if you're going to allow those things to occur and not complain about the safety of the fighters, which in my view are significantly more dangerous than these PED adverse findings, then what are we really doing here? Thank you, Sly. He says rehydration clauses started because of massive advantage Gotti had on Joey Gamache. He gained 30 pounds on fight night. Gamache was hurt badly. Yeah, I mean it was mentioned, but there was nowhere near the outrage that we're hearing here. And what about when a fighter misses weight? Right? He broke the rules. Right? He's got an unfair advantage on the other guy. The other guy had to make weight and he didn't. In the case of Shakur Stevenson versus Consecao, the fight still went on. And then the argument is, oh, well, both fighters agreed to fight, so it's up to the fighter if he wants to fight that guy that's overweight. Okay, fine. Well, both fighters agreed in this situation to fight each other, right? Both fighters agreed in this situation to fight each other. So if it's okay for Stevenson and Consecao to fight, right? If it was okay for Valdez and Consecao to fight, right? Then why the outrage if this fight goes on, right? Why the outrage if this fight goes on? That's the argument, right? So why is having an adverse fighting when you have trace amounts of something in your system, right? You have trace amounts of something in your system. Why is that such a problems? Why is there such an outrage? But there's very minimal outrage about a guy missing weight and being overweight and the fight's still going on because both fighters agree. Is there any evidence of someone who went into a fight using PEDs? Do we have any evidence of that fighter actually killing somebody in the ring, injuring somebody in the ring? But yet we hear, oh, the safety of the fighters, the safety of the fighters. I mean, Fernando Vargas tested positive for a banned substance, right? Against Oscar De La Hoya, and he got knocked out. Oscar Valdez went into that fight with Consecao with a banned substance, and you can argue he lost that fight. You know, and all substances aren't created equal. This perception that someone can just take something and automatically it's like Popeye with his can of spinach, turns into Superman. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, brother. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people just have these opinions and they don't really even know these drugs and what they do, right? and how much of an advantage these drugs really have. We know it's not safe to lose 30 pounds in 6 to 8 weeks. We know that. We know it's not safe when two people of equal skill go into a ring and one person's 30 pounds heavier than the other. We know that. We have evidence to prove that. We've seen Arturo Gatti versus Joey Camacho. We saw the outcome of that, right? We've seen Gerald McClellan versus Nigel Benn, right? Gerald McClellan was killing himself to make weight, severely dehydrating himself to make weight, right? We've seen that, right? We've seen guys who are severely outmatched get the living hell beat out of them, and we've seen that guys who have taken beating after beating after beating because they haven't been, with all due respect, they don't have the greatest skills in the world, and we've seen what happened to them after boxing. A lot of them are slurring their words, they're limping, they're stuttering, right? And it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing to say. It's an uncomfortable truth, but it is the reality of the situation. So we have evidence that those other things that I mentioned aren't safe, but we don't have the same outrage for those things than we do for this PED thing. Why? Because it's not sexy enough of a story. It doesn't grab headlines, right? You know what I mean? So again, because someone has trace amounts of a fertility drug in their system, I'm supposed to be like, oh, automatically the safety of Chris Eubank Jr. is at risk. Meanwhile, at this particular time, the substance is probably out of his system, right? And there's really going to be no benefits the night of the fight from this substance. There's really, in my opinion, no safety concern whatsoever by Conor Benn having trace amounts of this in one of his tests. And I don't even know when this test occurred. It could have been early in the camp, whatever. So forgive me, if you know, I can't provide all this information. But at the end of the day, right? The only types of drugs, in my view, that give you an instant performance enhancement the day of a fight is if you were to take a stimulant the day of the fight, right? A lot of these other things, yeah, they help you heal, they help you repair, but they're not going to make you a better fighter. If you like again, there's no there's instances where guys have taken PEDs and still lost fights. You know what I mean? I'm really not against PEDs because if you're going to allow people to take supplements that enhance performance, what's the difference between a supplement that enhances performance versus a drug that enhances performance? One's legal, one's not. So this whole outrage about, oh, someone that takes PEDs, they're gonna kill somebody. There, there's no like where's the evidence? Where are the stories where someone that was found to be on PEDs killed somebody in the ring? I do know I have seen mismatches where someone died in the ring. I have seen people with severely injured and their quality of life affected by undergoing severe weight cuts. I've seen that. So the evidence is there for this other stuff, but there's no evidence for this PED thing. But people are more concerned about the PED thing than they are about everything else. We've seen guys weight bully other guys. We've seen the Joey Gamache and the Arturo Gatti situation happen time and time again. We've seen that. We don't have any evidence of someone who was on PEDs who seriously maimed, injured, or killed somebody in the ring. But we have evidence of those other things providing us and having negative outcomes occur as a result. But yet we're always jumping on this PED thing. And then they took a poll on Talk Sport. Do you think this fight should happen? And 70% said no, and 30% said yes. And then the shaming came about. Oh, well, I question, those 30% who said yes, right? I question that 30% who said yes. Okay, but what about all the other things that like what about all the other stuff that I mentioned? Were you concerned about that? Right? You concerned about that? And I have another why didn't you take a poll and ask the people if this fight goes on, right? Would you watch it? Right? So all the 70% of the people, right, that said they weren't going to watch it, can almost guarantee you that excuse me, that said that it shouldn't happen. Uh, Excuse me, strike that last remark. The 70% that said the fight shouldn't happen, I bet you they're still going to watch the fight. So what's the sense of having that stance if you're still going to watch the fight anyways? It's like these idiots that criticize how bad the fights are, but yet they stream them. Listen, I'm not a big, with all due respect, I'm not a big fan of ballet. I'm not a big fan of snooker. I'm not a big fan of cricket, right? So if I'm not particularly interested in something or I don't like something, I just don't watch it. So if you're going to stand there and sit there and say how bad a fight is, but yet you stream it, it makes no sense because you still want to watch it. So if you're going to sit there and complain about this fight shouldn't happen, and yet you still watch it, then what does that say about you? Are you, are you just virtue signaling, or are you just saying something to because you want to be on the right side of history because you don't want to go against the grain? And then you're hearing Spencer Oliver saying how bad it is if this fight goes on. And then they ask him, will you there's going to be there's going to be a press conference today. You're going to go to it. Oh yeah, I'm going to it. Boycott it then. If you're against the fight, it shouldn't happen. Then why are you going to the press conference, Spencer? Boycott the event. Are you going to watch the fight, Spencer, if it happens? If you watch the fight, if it happens, then are you really against it? Are you really against it? So if I'm against something and I don't like something, I just don't watch it. But if you're going to sit here and get up on your high horse and you want to take this moral ground and you want to stand on your soapbox and preach how this shouldn't happen, but yet you're going to watch it, but yet you're involved in it. If you're media, right, you're going to sit there and interview the fighters, and you're going to be all about it, whatever. And you're out here railing against it, right? You're out here railing against it, but yet you're going to watch it. Then what does that say about you? Why even have that stance if you're not going to act on that stance or do anything about it? So all these fucking people, oh, this fight should never happen. If you turn around and you fucking watch it, then you're not really against this fight. You're just virtue signaling. You just want to be part of the popular opinion. You don't want to be in the minority. You don't want to be Beeb with the little stupid channel that no one cares about with 3,500 subscribers, right? You don't want to be that guy. Who cares what Beep says, right? But at the end of the day, I got nothing to lose, so I'll say whatever I want to say. Exactly, JC. If anything, this is going to want people to want to. It's going to make people want to watch it more. Oh well, this just shows that money means more than integrity. Okay, newsflash. Hasn't it always been like that in every part of life? Seriously, hasn't it always been like that? You got politicians doing things for money, right? You got politicians doing things for money, and yet there's like they're saying it's for virtuous reasons. Like that money makes the world go around. Like so we're gonna sit here and argue. Like they're having events in Saudi after you live after a country that allows men to throw acid in women's faces and beat the shit out of women, right? But they have no problem holding sporting events there. So again, you got people can virtue signal all they want, right? They can criticize things all they want, but if you're not consistent, if you complain about something and you do nothing about it, then in my opinion, you're wasting your energy and your time. And quite frankly, I believe you're virtue signaling. So this fight will happen. I think it should happen because both fighters want it to happen. If they believe that it's okay for them to fight each other, let them fight each other, right? Let them fight each other. If they want to do it, let them do it. I believe anytime someone fails a PED test, in my opinion, just like if someone's overweight and the other fighter says, I'll still fight him, then it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. If both fighters want to fight, let them fight. Because I told you guys, oh, Valdez, he cheated, blah, blah. I told you because I knew the drug he took. Phentermine is not something that someone's going to. Phentermine is a strong appetite suppressant, right? He did it to make the weight. Did he cheat? Absolutely. Am I justifying what he did? No. Am I defending what he did? No. Did he break the rules? Yes. Fine. But at the end of the day, I already told you it was not going to benefit him in any way because I know the drug. It's an appetite suppressant. It's not a fucking. It's a low level stimulant. You can get more of a fucking buzz drinking caffeine. Drinking a Red Bull has more of a performance enhancement effect, which is illegal. Which is a legal drink you can buy at a store. A Red Bull has more of a stimulatory effect. It gives you more of a benefit than that fucking phentermine did. He took that phentermine for the sole purpose of just being able to step on that scale and hitting that number. He was not going to get better by taking that phentermine. And I even argued that it would probably be a detriment to him, which I believe it was. Because arguably he lost that fight. Arguably he lost that fight. Hey, what's up, Lady Chen? Nice to see you in the chat. So arguably he lost that fight. So once again, this fight should go on, in my opinion. This whole thing about Chris Eubank's life is in danger. Stop with the fucking, this fucking hyperbole shit. Stop trying to sensationalize everything. Stop trying to virtuously. Chris Eubanks Jr. is life is not in any more danger than it would have been if this fucking trace amount of this fertility drug was not found in Ben's system. So I'm just being honest here. That's my opinion. Enough with the virtue signaling. Enough with the false outrage. Oh, well, 70% don't want this fight to happen. Yeah, but that 70% will still probably buy a pay-per-view. This fight will go on. This fight will go on, in my opinion, and it will do well over 1 million pay-per-view buys in the UK. So all of the virtue signalers crying, complaining that this fight should not have gone on, you still bought the fucking pay-per-view. So what does that say about you? You want to be on the right side of history. You don't want to be criticized. But yet you never complain when you see a guy who is a 30-1 underdog go in there with a fighter that he has virtually no chance of winning, and he sits there and gets the bag beat out of him, goes into that ring and leaves it and never be the same after getting beat up horribly. You never complain about a guy walking around at 180 and making 147 and doing it time and time again, putting his body at risk. You never care about that, right? You never care about a guy, two guys weighing in at 147 the day of the day before the fight, and then they enter the ring. One guy's 30 pounds or 20 pounds heavier than the other guy. You don't care about that, right? These are things no one really calls out and says, "Oh, well, that's not safe. That's not safe. That's not safe." Or if they do, they don't say it to the extent that they're talking about here, right? So again, this fight, I don't have a problem with this fight going on. I don't think Chris Eubank's life is at any more danger now than it was before this adverse finding was found. Okay? And if you want to talk about the integrity of the sport, this fucking sport never had integrity. It never will. You know, it's all nothing in this world really has integrity. It's always going to be about the money. Just look at our politics. Look at the inconsistencies in the way things are conducted on social media. You want to talk about life being fair and you know what's right and what's wrong. That's out the window, man. That's out the window. That's out the window. So it is what it is. I'm not concerned that Chris Eubank, his life is a danger. Again, you want to talk about making a sport safe? Punching someone in the head for 36 minutes and getting hit hundreds of times in the head is never going to be safe, right? It's an oxymoron. It is what it is. So you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, there's worse things going on in the sport of boxing than finding trace amounts of a fertility drug in a fighter's system. That's just my opinion. Yes, that's me rapping in the beginning, Anali. Beeb, have you ever done a cycle? I've never done a cycle, but I have taken certain drugs. I've taken clenbuterol before. I've never taken an anabolic steroid before. No, I've taken clenbuterol. I've taken I've taken stimulants that are actually illegal now. I've taken ephedra. I've never been a guy who I was always a big person, so I never tried to get bigger. I always tried to get leaner. That was my goal. I was a fat kid growing up, right? I'm about I'm about 6 feet 6'1". I walk around at about 200 pounds, 205 pounds. I don't have a problem getting big. Thank you, Anali. Yeah, I don't have a problem. I never had a problem getting big. I had a problem. I had a problem getting lean. My thing was always wanting to get lean. Not meth. I mean, ephedra is a precursor to methamphetamines. People don't know that, but it is one of the components in making meth. So just like and you can argue a lot of this stuff that is banned, right? A lot of this stuff that is banned. Beeb is not shady. I'm transparent. I told you. How could that be shady if I'm telling you what I took? I'm being transparent. I took clenbuterol one time. I didn't like how I felt on it, and I never took it again. But I did take ephedra for almost a year, and I loved it in the beginning, but in the end, it started wearing on me. It started putting a lot of stress on my body, so I stopped taking it. So it is what it is, you know. Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. It is what it is. So yeah, and that's my opinion on this. We're gonna do the roundtable tonight on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you tune in to the channel for the roundtable. We're gonna have a lot of good panelists on there. And obviously, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna get more people's opinion on this. But yeah, it is what it is, guys. Again, you don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but all I do ask you to do is take a look at some of the other things that I brought up and mentioned in this video, and ask yourself: is this whole PED outrage is in all this talk about PEDs? Is it really more dangerous than the mismatches, than the severe weight cuts, right? Than some of these other things that are going on in the sport of boxing, where we have evidence where people have been seriously injured, and some people have died as a result of the severe weight cuts and as a result of the severe mismatches in the sport of boxing. I challenge anyone. I mean, I challenge anyone to provide me evidence where someone was on PEDs and they killed another fighter in the ring. I don't think it's out there. I don't think it's out there. The only thing I disagree with is the idea that because a fighter wants to do it, they should be allowed to do it. That's not the argument. I think the what I did say was if a fighter finds out that his opponent tested positive or was an adverse finding was found, right? I do believe that if he wants to fight that fighter, he should be allowed to fight that fighter. That's the argument. But again, doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. That's just my belief, you know? The same thing. If like what is worse, a fighter taking a PED, right? Because again, not all PEDs are created equal. What was worse, taking phentermine to make weight in Oscar Valdez's situation? And D Style, credit to him, brought this up. What is worse, Oscar Valdez using a PED phentermine, which is basically an appetite suppressant? In my opinion, is a very low. It's not a performance enhancer. So he took a appetite suppressant to allow himself to make weight. What's worse, what Oscar Valdez did, or what Shakur Stevenson didn't even make weight at all, and there was very little outrage on Shakur Stevenson not making weight. Oh well, Khan wanted to fight him anyways, so why isn't there an outrage there? I think there's an inconsistency there. So everyone was jumping on Valdez because he took a fucking appetite suppressant, right? He took an appetite suppressant, right? But no one cared about Shakur Stevenson. Didn't he cheat too? He fought above a contracted weight. He signed a contract just like Valdez signed a contract, right? One guy used an appetite suppressant. The other guy just didn't make weight at all. In what what's worse, what Valdez did or what Shakur Stevenson did? I would argue what Shakur Stevenson did because he didn't even make the weight, right? One guy made weight and the other guy didn't. That's the thing. Yeah, there was a huge outrage for Valdez. Not as much, not really for Shakur though. I didn't hear this outrage about Shakur. I'm not saying there was a zero outrage for Shakur, but people were fucking crucifying Valdez. People were crucifying Valdez. That's the thing. You know, that's the thing. So what's work? Let's do a poll. Let's do a poll in the chat. I'm curious to see this. What was worse, Valdez's situation, right? The Valdez situation, Stevenson's situation. I'm curious to see what people are going to say here. We'll let that go for a little while, right? Yeah. Yeah, Russell situation was an interesting situation too. My biggest problem with the Gary Russell situation was I was extremely critical of the commission because Gary Russell was doing interviews telling everybody that he was going into the fight injured. So if I'm the commission, you're supposed to fill out a medical questionnaire revealing if you have any injuries going into the fight, and then the commission will make a determination whether or not that they'll sanction the fight and allow you to continue. So Gary Russell is going on doing interviews, telling the world that he's going into this fight injured. So my question is, why isn't the commission following up on this and asking him, well, what's your injury? How bad is your injury? You're going to sit there and like someone like who in their right mind would go into a fight with a torn tendon in their shoulder What commission would allow someone to do that? Basically go into a fight with one arm. That's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, again, people people that take phentermine are obese women going into a doctor's office trying to lose 40 pounds. No one goes into a doctor's office and asks a doctor, can you prescribe me with phentermine, right? So I can become a marathon runner or so I can become a championship boxer. I mean, well, Lady Chan, I mean, if it's banned, it's banned. Yes, I mean that's true. We're not debating that. All I'm debating is the reaction of the people saying that if someone takes phentermine, they're going to go into a ring and kill somebody. Because that's all we hear every time someone tests positive for a PED, we hear this argument, "Oh, well, somebody's life is in danger. You could kill somebody in there," right? I've never heard of anyone taking phentermine and killing somebody. Making that like that's just my argument. I'm not disagreeing with your point. All I'm saying is, to me, somebody going into a fight against someone who's a 30-1 favorite over someone who's you got someone who's 10 times more skilled than someone like a guy who's a 30-1 favorite over somebody. I think going a gross mismatch is much more dangerous than fighting someone on phentermine, in my opinion. I think it's much more dangerous for someone walking around at 180 and then having to get down to 147. I think that's more dangerous. So my whole argument is I'm not saying, you know, that rules aren't being broken or whatever. I'm not saying that. My argument is I think there's much more dangerous things going on in the sport of boxing, which I said earlier. I don't know if you were here on here earlier. I think gross mismatches and severe weight cuts and fighters rehydrating 20 pounds the night of the fight, going in there having a 15 to 20-pound weight advantage over their opponent, and some fighters killing themselves to make weight and staying at a weight class too long and damaging their body in the process. We have evidence that those things have negative consequences. But yeah, so that's the argument. Everyone has this outrage every time someone fails. There's a adverse result on a test. Oh well, the safety of the fighter is at risk. My thing is there's much greater risks with these mismatches. There's much greater risks with these severe weight cuts, right? There's much greater risks with a guy weighing in at 147 and going into the ring weighing 140, weighing 170, fighting a guy who's 150. That's my argument. I'm not justifying, if you agree to a fight and you agree to the testing and you agree that you will not have any banned substances in your body, and you get flagged for a banned substance, then you got to deal with the repercussions of that. But if you're asking me, do I care if this fight goes on or not? I think I don't care. Well, again, yeah, you adhere to the rules, but once again, you have guys who come in overweight and their opponent says, "Okay, I'll still fight them," but no one really cares about that. Like, so if you're gonna allow someone to come in overweight, which he's breaking a rule, and you're allowing the fight to go on, then what's the difference between that and someone having an adverse finding on a PED test? Oh, well, someone's life is at stake. Well, someone's life is always going to be at stake when you're getting punched in the head. That's the reality of the situation. Once again, there's no evidence to suggest taking a fertility drug is going to make you have the ability to kill another man or woman. There's no evidence to suggest taking phentermine is going to make you more dangerous of a human being than if you didn't take phentermine. I would argue it's more dangerous going into a fight being 10 times more skilled than your opponent when that opponent doesn't have the skills to intelligently defend himself, and he's going to take significant damage as opposed to if the match was more even. I think that's I think that's more dangerous than someone taking phentermine. But but no one ever says, oh, people will say, oh, this fight shouldn't be sanctioned because it's because like they don't want to watch it because they don't think it's competitive. But no one ever says, oh, what about that guy who's a 30-1 underdog? What about that guy? Like his life is at danger. No one says that. But everyone's concerned about someone taking a fertility drug or taking an appetite suppressant, saying that guy automatically is going to turn into a murderer overnight because he took that drug. Those are my points. And that's always been my opinion. That's always been my opinion. Every time someone feels a PED test, automatically that person becomes a potential murderer. That's the argument. So now if someone feels a PED test and they fight with PEDs, right? Are we going to charge them with attempted murder? I know that sounds like a stretch, but again, like this whole argument that because he took a fertility drug, right, that automatically he's going to turn into a killer in the ring. I don't know, man. I think it's worse, like I said, when you allow a guy who fights at 147 to rehydrate up to 170, fighting against a guy who probably rehydrates up to 155. That's it. That's it. So, again, it's a masking agent for what he was really taking. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows what he was taking? Who knows what he was taking? I just don't think Chris Eubank's life is in any more danger now than it was before the results of this test were revealed. That's just my opinion. Was a rule broken? Absolutely. That's fine. Should he deal with the repercussions of it? That's fine. But if the fight goes on, I don't have a problem with it because Shakur Stevenson broke a rule and his fight was allowed to go on. And no one said that fight should have been canceled. Very few people wanted that fight to be canceled. Very few people were concerned about Consacau's safety, having to go in there with a guy who had a weight advantage over him, an unfair weight advantage over him. Right? You probably, if you look at Shakur the night of the fight, he was significantly bigger than Consacau. Right? Why was that fight allowed to go on? That's the thing. Okay, but are the drugs, is phentermine, is someone who takes phentermine more dangerous than someone who is 10 times more skilled than another person? What's more dangerous? What's more dangerous? A guy who weighs in at 147 and enters the ring at 170 and fights a guy who's 155, as opposed to a guy on a fertility drug? What's more dangerous? Okay, Shakur got punished. He paid the fine. Consacau said he wanted to fight, but Shakur had to pay that out of his purse. Punished. Okay, so then why can't Conor Benn pay Chris Eubank a fine and have the fight go on then? Why does the fight have to be canceled? Why can't can't it be the same punishment? Why is taking PEDs worse than not making weight? Then someone is going to say, okay, Floyd is an outlier. That's an outlier. Joey Gamache, when he went into the fight with Arturo Gatti, giving up all that weight, he didn't come out on top. Yeah, there should be a punishment. But should the fight be canceled? That's the question. I'm not saying he shouldn't get punished, but should the fight be canceled? I'm not saying that he shouldn't get punished. But should the fight be canceled? Oh, you want to come on, Suleiman? I'll let you come on, brother. I'll let anyone come on if they want to come on. I'll throw a link in the chat. Anyone wants to come on and talk about this, we can do it. No problem. I have no problem. I have no problem with the fight going on. Like I said, I don't think Chris Eubank Jr.'s. I don't think his life's in danger. What if it's a masking agent? Joe Ben covers that. Oh, it is what it is. What's up, Dandara?
What up, though? What's up, beef?
What's going on?
Like, we wouldn't be having these conversations if, like, across the board, if it's on the banned substance list, it's banned. We're not here to say how bad it does towards the other fighter. It could protect the fighter that's taking the substance. At the end of the day, you're not supposed to be taking it. You're not supposed to be taking it. If you come in overweight, you're not supposed to be coming overweight. So therefore, some kind of punishment has to be adhered to, whether it's your pass deducted, or it could be as extreme that the fight is cancelled. Whatever the punishment is, you're in line for being punished. That's just the
Agree.
bottom line. If you don't want to
Agreed.
be punished, you don't pop dirty, or you don't come in overweight. It's the same.
Agreed. Let me ask you two questions. Would you be outraged if this fight happens on Saturday? Would it bother you?
No,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be outraged,
yeah.
but I think that there should be some punishment. I think that if the fight should get pulled, the fight should get pulled, because then it tells that fighter who fucked up everybody's shit, down to the people on the undercard, never to do that again.
So you don't.
If so be it, if the
So
fight
you
gets pulled.
don't.
The fight should
Oh,
get cancelled.
I'm sorry. Let me just say one thing, Lady Chen. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So either way, if it gets canceled or if it happens, you don't care either way. Doesn't you don't really? It's really not going to bother you either way.
I mean, I'm not going to be fucking picketing and fucking outside the fucking O2 or wherever this is happening. But I feel that, you know, but I feel that Conor Benn should get some kind of punishment. He
Okay.
should.
Al, I'm going to let you go in 1 second. I just want to ask Lady Chen one more question. Do you think Chris Eubank Jr. is in any more danger now than before this test was revealed, in your opinion?
See, I don't know what the effects of that drug does to someone, if it makes Chris Eubanks Jr. in more at a deficit. All I know is that you have to put things also into context. For one, it was just banned, so you shouldn't have been having taken it. And
Fair
for
enough.
two, the history of their dads, of what happened with their dads and stuff like that. Things can go horribly wrong. I don't know if there was performance enhancement drugs with their dads or whatever, because in those days things just went under the radar. But at the end of the day, I just think that the triple BC just doesn't have, they can't take the risk of something going wrong, which happened with their fathers and also Chris Eubank Jr. So I mean, you just don't know. We're not here to scientifically dissect what this drug does and what it doesn't do. All I'm saying is that you get a list of shit that you're not allowed to take, so you just don't take it.
Yeah, it's a fighter's responsibility.
Yeah.
Al, I'm going to let you go in 2 seconds. I'm just going to read this super chat from Bang. It says, a purse punishment is not making anyone safe. Again, Bang, with all due respect, Lady Chen made a statement, and I can respect what she said. She says, I don't know the effects of the drug. So she's staying neutral on that. You're taking a stance on something where you don't know. I don't know if you've done the research on the drug or if you know anything about the drug, but I do know about the drug he took. Did some research on it also, and I talked to some people about it, and it's not something that you would want to take. Once again, as Lady Chen said, some of these drugs could actually hurt the fighter that takes them. This drug has a lot of negative side effects, and I wouldn't take it. Okay. Al, you have the floor. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question, sir.
Sure.
What is it? We in America, innit?
Correct.
Yeah, good. Well, good morning to you over there, innit? You get me?
Good
Basically,
morning.
I wanted to ask you. No, I wanted to say actually, it's my problem is that the fight should not be going on. He failed the drug.
All right, your sound just went out. I don't know if you lost connection or not. See if you can get
Sir,
it back. All right,
sir, I'm receiving a call. Give me 2 seconds, please, man. Sorry
all
about
right,
that.
all right. Well, that's the thing. So, what do you think the chances of this fight happening, Lady Chan? Do you think it's going to go on, or do you think there's too much pressure from the public? With the like, you know how the B, you probably have more experience on how the British board works. What do you think they're going to end up? What do you think is going to ultimately happen here?
I just think that they're going to get the license through Switzerland through the Luxembourg. They did the same thing with Hay and Chisora. So Luxembourg are going to be happy to accommodate this. I think it's because it's a legacy fight. There's a lot of money involved, so I think the fight's still going to go on under a different sanctioning.
Do you
But
think this? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, sorry, I finished.
Do you think this helps or hurts the pay-per-view buys for this fight? And do you think that people are going to want refunds for their tickets? Or do you think any of this is going to matter? And could this even maybe garner more interest for this event?
Yeah, it could garner even more. To be honest, uh, that's that's how sick and twisted us humans are. We still like it's intrigue and curiosity. I don't think it's going to hurt. I don't think you're going to get a couple sticklers, like a minute percentage that'll be like, well, I'm just boycotting fully and I want a refund. But all in all, no, this fight's going to do just fine.
Yeah, I wanted to
Al,
ask you. I wanted to ask you a question, sir. So,
sh-
don't you have an issue? You don't have no issues with Conor Benn coming out talking about he doesn't know he doesn't know what's going on. He didn't take anything. He's not owning up to his mistake. And why the hell did he say that he had a conversation with Chris Eubank and Chris Eubank came out and said there's been no conversation. What the hell is going on? And I'm pissed off that the two promoters even are allowing this. They're pushing for this fight just to happen because of their money, their hunger for their money. I don't understand. This fight should not be happening. He got popped dirty. This fight should not be happening because if he actually goes in there and starches Chris Eubank and Chris Eubank comes out with some brain damage or some facial structural damage or something, who's going to be blamed for that? You can't put the man in there and he's off drugs.
so if this fight happens, are you going to watch it?
Yep, I'm calling it live. I was never boycotting it in the first place. I was just like, I was just going to be acceptant of whatever the punishment was. I mean, but I still feel that there's some punishment needed to happen. If the fight gets pulled, then I'm with it. The fight gets pulled. That's a part of the punishment. You pop dirty. There's no accountability. There's none.
Yeah.
It's all covered up. It but by the rules, really, it should just get pulled. But if it's not, yes, I'm gonna watch it.
And sir, why did you compare Shakur Stevens' situation to that? That's not the same thing. He didn't put nothing inside his body. He didn't put nothing inside his body. He didn't use any type of
Here, here,
enhancement or anything.
here's the problem when people do this. Similarity does not mean identical. If someone shares a similarity with somebody, now you can argue the extent of something, or you can argue what's more significant. You could do that if you want. That's a debate we can have. But when you try to say, oh, you can't say something is similar to something else, like if someone does an Ali shuffle, oh, he's doing the Ali shuffle. Oh, you can't say he's Ali. I didn't say he was Ali. I'm saying he's doing something that Ali did. If I have a black shirt on and you have a black shirt on, where we share a similarity, that doesn't mean we're the same person. You can argue that the situations are different, but two fighters broke a rule. Two fighters broke a contract, essentially. Can we
Yeah,
argue that? Can we
and
argue
one
that
was
that
punished, and one
one was
wasn't.
punished? Well, we don't know what's going to happen yet.
No, he's not get. Conor Benn is not being punished because UCAD has come out and said He's broke no rules. He hasn't popped dirty under their system. So there's no punishment that has to be implemented at all. So Shakur got punished, and Conor Benn hasn't been punished.
Okay, so that's a bad look.
It is. You got to keep the same energy.
Yeah, you can't defend that. If he comes out of this without a fine, without anything,
there's no fine, nothing.
Then you know what? It's going to be a bad look. He has to be reprimanded somehow, some way. And Eddie Hearn sitting there bragging, "Oh, well, he's not suspended. He's not this. He's not that." Again, if VADA has no jurisdiction, then why were they even used in the first place?
Exactly, that's my whole point. So now that it hasn't worked for them, they've now decided to discount him popping that. So it's almost like it doesn't exist. Oh, we don't use VADA anyway. So no, you decided to use VADA and you pop dirty. I'm not in agreement of what Eddie Hearn's doing and lying and going around them. I'm not in agreement of it. It's bullshit.
It's a bad look for Eddie.
Yes, it's a bad look for Eddie as a promoter coming out saying that Eddie's not responsible for what the fighters put in their body. He doesn't live with the fighters. He's not their parents. But it's a bad look for him trying to force this fight to happen under the guise of trying to discount what VADA was about. And then we've got clips of Eddie previously saying VADA is the best, and he almost has to, all his fighters have to be on a VADA program, and then all of a sudden your superstar fighter pops dirty under VADA, and now you want to like be a hypocrite or and contradict yourself by saying VADA doesn't matter in this fight.
He don't care about the fighters. He doesn't care about the. If this fight continues to go ahead, he doesn't care about the fighters. He doesn't care about Conor Benn's health. He doesn't care about Chris Eubank's health. That's why money. Just why? So I want to ask them. So this money, all this is more important than the guy's health, because if something happens to Chris Eubanks Jr., somebody's finished. Somebody's done. That's what my personal.
And that will be Eddie will be done as well. He'd be under that. Yeah, Eddie will be done if anything does happen to Chris Eubank Jr. I don't know what the extent. Like I said, Beeb, disclaimer out here. I don't know what that drug does. What it doesn't do. All I know is what I'm saying is it's on the banned list. You just shouldn't have taken it.
No, we can't refute that statement. We have to agree with that statement. There's nothing we can say to argue against that. What I think Eddie should have said was, right now we're going to investigate the situation, or if the situation is being investigated, we're going to let the process play out, and whatever the result of the process is, we're going to have to go with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's even mentioned that they would possibly reschedule it. But here's the thing. DAZN may have a say in this too. They may put pressure on Eddie to say, hey, you know what? We don't want this fight to be canceled. Find a way to get this done. And whether or not what Eddie can do in that situation, that's a whole different argument. If you're in Eddie's situation, what do? Do you butt heads with DAZN, or like? There's a lot of things that could possibly be going on behind the scenes here that we don't really know about. So, it's interesting. I kind of do think the fight is going to happen. I think it will. I think there's too much money on the line. I think, like I said, I do believe DAZN will put pressure on Eddie to have the fight. The fight is still listed on the schedule in the DAZN app. It has not been taken off. A press conference today, to my knowledge, has still been scheduled. It's going to take place. And the Talk Sports guys, I was listening to their show. They said they're going to be there. So if you're so against the fight happening, right, Spencer, then why go to the press conference? Why not boy the pro? Oh, well, I have to. I'm obligated. Okay, well then,
Yeah, then be quiet then.
And be quiet then. Just say don't have an opinion on it then. Try to be neutral.
Right.
Those guys are too biased, man. They're very biased. They're very hypocritical, and I don't know.
People don't have integrity. That's what. That's just the bottom line across the board. A lot of people are not.
No moral compass.
Yeah, they're not integral. Money beats integrity. like, or for these types of people. I'd rather have integrity and lose some money than have no integrity, make money but lose sleep.
And then again, Chris Eubank is taking the piss as well. He's even supporting this crap. How are you supporting this rubbish? It doesn't even make sense. How are you supporting this crap? Because you want to make the fight go on because you want your money. It don't make no
You gonna
sense.
Are you gonna watch the fight though? That's what I asked you. Are you gonna watch it or are you gonna boycott the fight?
I'll be at work, so I won't watch it anyway, man. I ain't gonna watch the fight. No, I won't watch it.
Are you gonna
So,
watch a replay of it? You gonna watch the highlights? What are you gonna
yeah,
just
man.
never?
Yeah, man. I can't. It's just I can't. Me personally, I don't have any issues with anyone else watching the fight. You get me? Everyone has their own their demeanor towards the fight. You get me? But me personally, I can't support that. The guy's off drugs and they're just letting it slide. And if something happens to Chris Eubank, God forbid, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to witness something happening to the man and then something happens to him and they go, oh, I supported that. Do you know what I'm saying? Just me, innit? Just me. If anyone else also wants it, that's fine. I ain't gonna comment. I can't judge
But
nobody on anyone else wants to do.
but
You get me?
but are you really honestly are you really concerned about Chris Eubank's health though?
Of
Honestly, like
course, the guy's on drugs. So if he
oh,
smacks him up, he was on drugs.
okay, so if I pop a Cialis right now and I go into the ring and Cialis is banned substance, if I go into the ring with excuse me, Lady Chan, if I go into the ring with an erection, does that mean I'm gonna knock somebody out?
Come on, man.
No, well,
An
it could
erection,
be
and
because
those
guess
pills.
what? Guess what? Your
Boss man, put
testosterone
pills
will
in his
be
throat.
heightened, wouldn't it? So that will cause an influx of testosterone. So that would give you
Short-lived,
that anger
short-lived.
advantage. It's just not
What's
allowed
the
to.
reason?
You
What's the
go in
reason?
with
What's
an
the reason you
erection.
think he took those pills?
A lot of people, I'm gonna be honest with you,
What's the
and
Mhm.
reason
this
why you think he took those pills? What's the reason why you think he was taking those
Yeah,
pills?
that's what I want to know.
I'm
What's the
gonna be
reason?
honest with you, and this is the reality. This is an uncomfortable truth in life.
He didn't take those pills because it tastes nice. He took
All
them
right,
to get an
all right.
advantage.
You asked me a question. Why do I think people take some of these drugs? Because they believe that they're going to help them. But do they really help them, or is it placebo in some cases? That's the thing. You like the reality of phentermine, right? Is it's an appetite suppressant. No one is going to go out and take phentermine and saying, I'm going to go out there and fuck somebody up because I'm on phentermine. I'm
It
just
gives you
telling you that
extra energy as well.
very,
It's an
very
antihistamine.
minimal,
It gives
very
you
minimal.
extra energy as well.
You,
It gives you
it's
extra adrenaline for you to cut that weight as well. It gives you extra energy.
it's a very mild stimulant. You could
Is it
drink a
is it
Red.
on the banned list? Is it on the
It
banned list?
it is.
Okay, so therefore you shouldn't be
What
taking
I'm
it.
trying to tell you though is, if you drank a Red Bull, you would
Mhm.
get more of an energy boost than taking phentermine. That's just
Okay, but the Red Bulls are on the banned list as well, aren't they? Fighters
are
can't
they?
drink. I think fighters can't drink Red
Okay.
Bulls either
Oh,
because it's got
they
taurine. You're not allowed to ingest taurine either.
Yeah, you like to
they
drink Red Bull and that.
You're
they
not.
put
You're not allowed.
taurine on the banned substance list, an amino acid.
Taurine is.
Wow. See, I didn't know
This,
that.
boss man, this is serious things, fam. You can't be taking these. Oh yeah, it doesn't do that much. Oh, it's not really
Yeah,
nothing. You're
yeah.
not allowed to
You're
put
not
nothing in your
allowed to
body.
take
Nah.
it. That's like you're not allowed to run a red light. Maybe you run the red light and you don't hit someone
Oh no.
whilst you run
Oh,
the red light.
oh no,
Maybe you
you're
get to
going
the
at
other side.
you're going at 5
Maybe
miles
you
per
get to
hour
the
past the
other
red light.
side of the road clear. But at the end of the day, it's still a risk. You're not allowed to run a red light. Highway rules are there for safety for the pedestrians and for the driver. And it's the same with sports. You're not supposed to take it.
No,
You're not supposed to take it.
you
We can't
you
and ah.
you are 100% correct. There's no refuting anything you just said. I just have I have a disagreement when Al says that Chris Eubank Jr.'s life is at risk because someone took a fertility drug. The science, the science in me can't wrap that. I can't wrap my brain around that, Lady Chan.
Yeah,
Am
I
I
don't know
wrong?
what like. Yeah, I don't
Am
know
I
what
wrong?
that.
Am I wrong? Like, was Consecal's life in danger?
See,
Because
see, you can't say that now.
let me
Shakur
finish.
Stevenson didn't put no pills
Let
in
me
his body.
finish. Let me finish. Let me finish. Was Consecal's life in danger because Valdez took an appetite suppressant? I just
He
don't
took
think
a
it was.
stimulant. He took a
It's
stimulant.
a very, I'm telling you, Lady Chan, it's a very mild stimulant.
Was
Very
it
mild.
banned?
It was.
Okay,
But
so therefore you're not allowed to take
no,
it.
and again, I'm not arguing that. The only thing I argue is when people get like very hyperbolic when
Yeah.
they say, "Oh, well, his life is at danger because so and so took this." I had this argument with Breadman too. Like I told Breadman that to the trainer when I was on the boxing voice. I said some of these drugs are and you alluded to this earlier too. Some of these drugs aren't just banned because of a performance enhancement, but because they could actually hurt the person taking them. It's for
Yeah.
the safety of the fighter too. That's all. I just like when people jump out and say, "Oh, well, his life's at danger. He's at risk." Like, I just think people blow that way out of proportion.
But there are drugs where it can put the other fighter's life at danger when the
fair
guy
enough.
goes into some kind of Freudian rage and decides to fucking pummel someone to death. It can be, but we're not here to split hairs and semantics.
Okay.
Guess why? Because it's just banned, so it's just
All right.
banned. The end.
Okay.
Then we don't have to have these discussions. We don't
You're
care
right.
if it's bad for that person or if it's bad for you. All we know is that you can't take it, so therefore don't take it there, and then we don't have these conversations trying to split hairs.
It's like during COVID. This is another controversial statement I'm going to make. I didn't think
Yeah.
the masks helped very, very much, little if all.
They
But
didn't. Yeah.
I had to wear it, so I wore it because it was a rule. If I wanted to go into a restaurant, I had to wear it. So yeah, I mean, you have to follow rules in life. Whether you just because you don't agree with a rule doesn't give you any reason to not follow
To
that rule.
bypass it if you're participating
But-
in the place where the rule is.
But my argument also too is a DWI is an offense, just like a parking ticket is an offense.
Yeah.
They're both offenses, but I think there's levels. In other words, so I don't think in my opinion, I don't think you can just make a blanket punishment for all PEDs. Like you wouldn't have a problem if this fight went on, but you just want to at least see some type of punishment be put on Conor Benn. Like if he was to receive it. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's not that. I'm one of these types of people. If I know I'm going to break a rule, right? You just know if you get caught, whatever the punishment is,
can I deal with the consequences?
It could be you're going to get fined, or it could be to the other end of the scale, you're going to get suspended. I have to know that these are the things that could happen. So for me, as a consumer and as a fight fan, if him doing that made the fight get pulled, then so be it. That was one of the consequences.
Okay, CN says, don't just look at the substance itself. Look at substances that go with it. Masking agents often indicate further substance use. This boosts testosterone. Joe, don't sugarcoat it. Okay, here's the thing. When you say it boosts testosterone, this drug gives you a short-lived boost, right? It's not a sustainable boost in testosterone. What it does is it suppresses the luteinizing hormone in your body, right? Where it suppresses estrogen production, therefore forcing the testosterone to go up slightly, right? So, okay, we can, like Lady Chan said, we can argue the science all we want. You know, it's on the bans list, it's on the bans list. But when I hear people come out and make these statements and all this and that, I don't think that this gives people the right to make statements that go against scientific data. Like
But babe, you can't say that because for one, he is a man, is not supposed to be taking that drug. So in a man's biochemistry, we don't know what the real effect of that drug will do, to that man or to the other fighter. So him having a boost of testosterone, how do we know that his biochemistry metabolizes that in a different way than they anticipated? Because really it's not for men in the first place. So how do we don't know that he has a massive spike of testosterone, and at some stage he could be in the ring and some kind of metabolic episode could happen where he rages. We don't know because he's not supposed to take it, hence why it's on the banned list and it's only for women to take. So don't take it. You can't minimalize him taking it. Oh, it's only because he's obviously taking it for him to have some kind of objective out of it. And it's not a natural one, is it? So therefore, we can't yet again play scientists. It's not for men, full stop.
Well, what bodybuilders do is they take this drug after a steroid cycle to
mask.
No, they do it to get their hormones back, because when you take steroids, your estrogen goes up as well too. That's why you have like the negative side effects. Sometimes people get the gynecomastia. So someone will take this to kind of block the estrogen after a steroid cycle. So there are instances where men do use this drug, and it is in some hormone replacement clinics. They do prescribe this, but they only prescribe it for short periods of time.
So, what he's on, the clomiphene, is for women.
Primarily, yes. Yes.
And if it's for men, then it's going to be prescribed. And he would have had a medical exemption for him to be able to take that. And then he wouldn't have popped dirty. So therefore, he's used it to boost his testosterone, not knowing what it can clearly do, what adverse effects that it could do for him in the long run. We don't know how long he's been taking it. It says women take it for 5 days. I'm sure when he popped dirty initially, it was in August. So we don't know if he's been taking it throughout the whole of his career, or because all of a sudden he's knocking people out. There's something why he's taking it. Whether it's in something else, or whether that is the primary thing why he takes it, and it gives him a boost. At the end of the day, I'm standing by my point. You just shouldn't take it. And if you're caught taking it, there should be some kind of punishment implemented.
Okay. All right. So the reality of the situation is, just like anyone, Canelo, any fighter that has an adverse finding or quote unquote failed the PED test, it's going to follow them around for the rest of their career, and their opponents are going to come out and start questioning, was he on something when he fought me? There's no way he's ever going to get around this. This is going to stain him for the rest of his career. He could go on to win multiple titles. He can go on to do great things, whatever the case may be, right? And even if this fight were to go on and he ends up beating Chris Eubank Jr., there's going to be pressure on him, because they're going to say, well, did you win? Did you win because you were on a PED? That's what's always going to be hanging over his head, and he's going to have to deal with the repercussions of that
for the rest of his career, right?
The rest of his career, and there's no way.
That goes for Roy Jones Jr., Canelo Alvarez. That goes for Tyson Fury. That goes
James Toney. James Toney.
It goes for a lot of them, and I see people that they're still champions and they've popped dirty. I don't see everybody questioning them for their wins and them being undefeated champions or XYZ. So, like, I mean, yeah, if we're going to look at it like that, he's always going to have a stain. They always have a stain, but I mean, we're still going to watch them, and they're still going to go on to probably do great things. So it's not one rule for Conor Benn. Oh, he's going to be a stain for the rest of his life. But Tyson Fury, it's not a stain. Canelo, it's not a stain. They're still champions and undisputed. Should we take away all of their belts then?
Well, the problem with the Tyson Fury situation is that seemed to really have been swept under the rug more so than like Canelo gets way more stick for testing positive for clenbuterol than Fury does for testing positive for nandrolone. I do realize that. I do see that. Like, people just don't even talk about. Very few people talk about Fury's failed PED test. No one in the industry does, anyways. But people still in the industry talk about the clenbuterol for Canelo. So there has been a double standard for Fury.
And that's what I'm like. You're either going to talk about everybody's, or you're not. It's just consistency.
I agree.
What I'm about. Do you know what I mean? Be consistent. I don't take away nothing from Canelo of him achieving undisputed. When he achieved undisputed, the first thing that came into my mind was like, well done. I didn't even think, but he's popped dirty in the past, so he's probably that. Like, I kind of don't think like that. If we have to do a list of fighters that have popped dirty, obviously he'll be on the list. But does that diminish his goals or his accolades For me, no, it doesn't. Roy Jones Jr. does it. For me, no. Evander Holyfield, for me, no. But is there an asterisk or a mark by their name? Unfortunately, yes. And that's what they decided to do. They took the risk, they ran the red light, and they got caught.
Said fighters, shout out to CN, says fighters live in a danger as it is, let alone when one contracted to be dehydrated and the other is using PEDs. Tiny margins make huge differences. Okay. So I was gonna say something else. I'm trying to remember the point that I made. I was gonna think about. So when a fighter does test positive and then he's tested throughout the course of his career, I do think you should be given the benefit of the doubt, therefore, afterwards. Now, this whole thing, here's what I want to talk about. This whole mental health thing. And we're going to kind of switch gears and I'm going to tie it back in. Because when Fury did test positive and he had all that stuff going on where he's being investigated by UCAD, he got stripped by the IBF. There was a lot of things going on in Fury's career, and there wasn't going to be a favorable outcome for Fury. I believe he was ultimately going to get suspended, whether it have been a year, 2 years, or whatever, pending that investigation by UCAD anyways. And when these fighters come out and claim mental health, right? My question is, are they being diagnosed by a medical professional? Have they gone to a therapist? Are they on any medication? What actual mental health issue or disorder do they have? Because it seems like anyone right now to get out of a contract can just say I have mental health issues.
Yeah.
And no one, there's no
No one
medical
questions it.
diagnosis. Yeah, there's no medical diagnosis. There's no medical records to support this. And if you question it, you get shamed.
You're a
well,
bad person. Yeah.
You just don't understand. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Adrian, I mean, do people get depressed? That's normal. Everyone gets depressed. You wake up, you have a bad day, whatever. Do I think Tyson Fury suffers from clinical depression? I honestly don't. Do I think Ryan Garcia suffers from clinical depression? I absolutely do not. Do I think Adrian Broner does? No, I don't. I just think these guys are flawed human beings, right? They make questionable decisions.
It's
Some of them,
strange.
yeah, they just have issues. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they have a clinical
mental health.
depression. And
Right.
this whole thing that anyone can just come out and say, I'm depressed. I suffer. Danny Garcia, I don't think he suffers from clinical depression. I don't. He's sitting there complaining about how COVID affected him. Didn't COVID affect how COVID affected him when he fought Errol Spence? Why? So Errol Spence wasn't going through COVID. He was in another dimension when COVID was going on.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm not with that.
That's another thing when people come out. I don't want to change the topic here, but when people come out and they use mental illness as an excuse for why they made a poor decision or why they're not happy with their career,
it's a low move. It's a low move because you said that your dad suffered with that, right? I did hear live that you know what that really is and what that really looks like. So it's kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah, my dad was on medication. He had to go to doctors.
Right.
He couldn't work for a period of time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Ryan Garcia is out there going on vacations, posting on Instagram, and I'm like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, and I can't question that.
I question it all day long. I didn't think Ryan Garcia suffered with it. I didn't think Tyson Fury suffered with it.
I don't think Tyson Fury did either.
Seems a bit weird. I don't. I don't know, mate. But like you said, even though if you're weird, doesn't mean that you are clinically depressed or clinically have paranoid schizophrenia. You know, when a fighter pulls out of a fight and they say like, "Oh, I've got a shoulder injury," we all demand to see the MRI. Sometimes they post it up and that. But with mental health, it's just a thing that you can say. It's like holding a baby in front of someone that's running to kill you, and you pick up a baby and hold the baby, and this like everyone backs off like, oh, he's got a kid in his hand. Like that's what the mental health card is being used as at the minute. There's no proof that you absolutely suffer with that, and there should be.
Boxing Pound for Pound Jack says Fury was diagnosed with bipolar disease, OCD. No, he wasn't. See, Mike Tyson actually came to Massachusetts. We have a facility called the Mayo Clinic, which is the best clinic in the world for diagnosing mental health issues. Mike Tyson actually came to Massachusetts, went to the Mayo Clinic, and he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So he has Mike Tyson has an actual diagnosis. I don't question Mike Tyson because he has an actual medical diagnosis. The doctor came out in an article and described everything Mike Tyson has. None of these other guys, we have no record of them even going to a doctor, even going. We have Tyson Fury. Oh, have you gone to therapy? He goes, he's been asked, oh, have you gone to therapy? Oh, I don't need therapy. I just work through it myself. So you know, so you don't have fucking depression, Tyson Fury.
Yeah, you can't have it. Yeah, you can't have it, I'm afraid. Anyone that says that, you can't have it. Ryan Garcia, you're in that. Yeah, sorry, you don't have it. And the fans like to, chip into the story to make them feel better in the person that they root for. Like, you can still root for the guy, but just don't cape and lie and go, oh, he was diagnosed with OCD and bipolar. How do you know? Was you there? Has there been any where's the documentation?
Where's the documentation? Where's the documentation?
Yeah, we need the documentation. You do. You need the doctor to come out and say, because when somebody goes in with anything in the fight, a shoulder injury, like I said, a pulled bicep, and pulls out of the fight, or a broken hand, we all want to see it. And it can be proven. It can be proven. And usually the state commission, Mauricio Suleiman, when it's the WBC, he's come out on record, said, I've seen the MRIs, so XYZ. So that's someone that's a certified official saying, even though we haven't seen the MRIs, whether he's lying or not, we're just going to have to take it that he's seen it. But when it's mental health, where is Dr. Phil coming out saying shit? No way. He's nowhere. So yeah, drop me out with this mental health stuff if you're not suffering.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying. I don't any of those fighters that just came out and said it, because that was a trend. I mean, I had a situation when my mother passed away. I was going through some problems. I went to a therapist. I went to 6 therapy sessions, but I wasn't diagnosed with anything. The therapist just said,
breathe.
I just talk to him or whatever. At least I could show documentation that I went to an actual therapist. It's in my medical records. I'm not ashamed. You know what I'm saying?
Right. At least you could prove that you went. There was no diagnosis, but you went, and this is who you saw. If there was a diagnosis, you would also have that on your record. That
on my records.
Right. These guys have not got this. If they have that, we don't know about it. So I don't believe you. Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one, babe.
Well, I think we pretty much covered everything. I want to thank you guys for coming on, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, man.
Yeah, me too.
I'm kind of glad that YouTube took the thumbs down thing off this off the videos, because I probably would have got 1,000 of them on this video, because I said a lot of things.
Engagement. Well, it's still engagement. People still took their time to thumbs it down, so that means you still watch. Thank you for helping my watch time hours. Thank you very much. That's all you got to say. It's still engagement. Thank you for having me, though, Beeb.
No problem, Lady Chen. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Al, I want to say thank you for coming on, even though we didn't agree on everything. I respect your opinion, brother, and thanks for coming on and sharing your viewpoints as well. All right, guys, make sure you check out the roundtable tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, D-Style, we got Lukey Boxing. Gabriel Montoya is going to be coming on. It's going to be a great show tonight. We got a lot of people. I can't remember everyone off the top of my head. I got Calix coming on. So it is what it is, guys. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Be safe and take care, everyone.